Well, just a quick update from Pastor Clark. He is over in Israel. The team just left this morning, about 6:45. They took off in a bus and they're heading on over for a tour of the land. So be in prayer for them. Should be a fantastic trip. Hopefully they'll bring back a great testimony of all they see over there, stirred up with having an opportunity to walk where Jesus walked. But over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be taking a look at how to balance all that happens in life, all the busyness, all the craziness that comes at us every day. I mean, let's be honest. Life is complicated. Life is busy. Life is a bit chaotic. I mean, you add in all the things that have to happen in a given 24-hour period. You got to go to work. It's a bummer, but still required. That's 8+ hours a day on top of the commute, and that's just plain old miserable. Anybody that has to go either north or south, 91 or the 15, that's never pleasant. You put into that the fact you got to eat at some point. Who says fast food? That's good. Saves in a little bit of time. You got to do sleep somewhere along the way. That's always kind of a necessity. Plus family. And there's entertainment. You got to hit social media, Facebook, TV. I mean, you sit there and go, where does all the time go? And there's probably something I'm forgetting. Oh, yeah, Jesus. Somewhere along the way, we're supposed to find time for the Lord. And we go, how do we balance all these things? I think sometimes we get the idea that this is kind of a modern problem. It's just the result of the chaotic age in which we live. But it turns out it's been around for a long time. In fact, Jesus addressed this very issue over 2,000 years ago. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at how he handled it, how he said we should take care of this difficulty, this dilemma of balancing the trials and the challenges and the busyness we have in life. And we're going to do so by looking at two different passages. This morning, we're going to open our Bibles to Luke chapter 12. As we look at Jesus' command to be ready, that we need to be prepared not to get caught up in the things of this world, but make sure we keep our eyes upon the Lord. And then next week, we'll pick up in Acts chapter 2, verses 37 through 47, as we look at the resource that God has given us to be ready, which is the Spirit of God that is here to fill us and equip us for that purpose. Well, that being said, let's open up our Bibles to Luke chapter 12. We'll begin in verse 13 this morning as Jesus is going to address two different groups of people. He's going to address two different dilemmas. He's going to address the crowds, the multitudes, those who do not know him, and he's going to give them two commands. And he's going to address the disciples, those who follow after him, and he'll give them 4 commands. So 6 in all we're going to take a look at this morning. Let's begin. Luke chapter 12, beginning in verse 13. Then one of the crowds said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But Jesus said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" And then he turned to them, referring to the multitudes. And he said, "Take heed and beware of covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the thing that he possesses." And he spoke a parable to them, saying, "The ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, since I have no more room to store all this abundance that has been given to me? And he said, here's what I'll do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and then I will store all the crops and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, Fool, for this night your soul will be required of you. Then who will these things be that you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God." So as we pick up our passage this morning, we see that Jesus, who is just finished, by the way, in the first 12 verses of this particular chapter, dealing with the dilemma, the danger of being involved in religion, dead religiosity, has a man stand up. And the man says, "Lord, tell my brother to divide his inheritance with me." Now, the assumption here is that this man who stood up and demanded this of Jesus, saying, "Hey, divide my brother's inheritance, tell him to split it evenly with me," was probably the younger of 2 brothers. Because according to the law of Moses, Deuteronomy 21:17, the younger brother would only receive 1/3. The older brother, the firstborn, would receive 2/3. And so he wasn't happy. He thought, I deserve more than that. I deserve to get at least half of the inheritance from my father. And so he comes to Jesus and demands that Jesus give this execution, this desire to, hey, have my brother split this inheritance, give me money. Because this man thought that if he had more money, he would be happier. His assumption is that money equated to happiness, pleasure, joy in life. He thought, if I have more, certainly that's going to be my answer to my problems. It's going to solve every dilemma that I have. But Jesus turned to him and did not give him the answer he wanted. Instead, he said, who has made me a judge over you? Why should I be your arbitrator? Because this man made a classic mistake. He had the creator of all heaven and earth standing before him. This man had an audience with God Almighty. And rather than asking an important question, he asked a foolish one. He said, I want money because money is what I think is going to make me happy. And guys, there's a powerful lesson there for you and I. We have access to the throne of God. We have the ability to be able to seek God, to talk to the Lord. But I fear too often we ask the wrong questions of God. James chapter 4. Verse 3 declares to us that you have not because you ask not. And when you do ask, you ask amiss, wanting to waste it upon your own lusts. We come to God with the wrong questions. That's what this man did. He came asking for material blessings. And therefore the Lord did not give him an answer, did not give him what he desired. Well, this opens up an opportunity for Jesus. He takes this outburst of this man as an opportunity to address the multitudes, and he gives them two commands, two things he tells the grand crowd that had gathered around him. Number one, in verse 15, he says, do not covet. Now this is interesting. He's saying you should not seek after the things of this world. Don't seek after, as this man had just done, riches, wealth, possessions. It's not going to be the answer you think it's going to be. It's not the solution that you desire. Now, it's worth mentioning that he doesn't say don't seek money, don't seek after possessions. It's the coveting of them. It's the desire of them. If you have money, if you're a rich person, that's not a problem, by the way. Money is not bad. Possessions are not bad. It's seeking after and desiring possessions, somehow thinking that they're going to make us happy, that they're a solution in life. That ends up becoming the problem. That's what Jesus is warning again. You are not to be covetous. Don't go seeking after the pleasures, the things, the possessions of this world. Here's why. There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much time we have. And Jesus is saying, listen, if you're taking all your time and seeking after the things of this world, what don't you have time for? To seek the Lord. He's saying, don't get caught up. Don't sit there and think you can be divided. It's not going to work. In fact, he would go on to clarify in Luke chapter 6, verse 24, that a man cannot serve two masters. You either hate one and love the other, or you despise one and be loyal to the other. You cannot serve God and money, mammon. Doesn't work. It's never going to be able to happen. You're going to be divided, and you're going to ultimately choose one of the other. And Jesus is saying, don't choose riches. Don't choose wealth. The first command he gives, don't seek after the things of this world. And he tells them why, by the way. He goes on to elaborate there in verse 15. He goes on and says, because the joy of life does not exist in the multitude of the things that you possess. Your happiness is not going to be tied up in how many things you own. You no doubt heard it said that he who dies with the most toys wins. Bumper stickers. I mean, it goes around. It's pretty common, kind of popular saying. But here's the reality. He who dies with the most toys dies. There's no winning. You just died. You're never ever going to see in life a U-Haul following a hearse. It just doesn't happen. You do not take these things with you. You will never be able to take the possessions with you. In fact, Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 15 tells us, you came naked into this world, and you're going to leave it the same way. So who cares how many possessions you have? Who cares how much you own? It makes no difference. If you're seeking after those things, you're seeking after very temporal possessions, things that will never last, versus taking your time to seek after something eternal, which is Jesus Christ. In fact, the Bible tells us rather than being covetous, we're to be content. Contentment is the call of the believer. Contentment is the call for the Christian. Content, by the way, according to Luke chapter 3, verse 14, with your wages, whatever you're paid. You may not think it's enough, but God says be content with what you have. Not just your wages, but content, by the way, with food and clothing. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 18. If you've got food, if you've got clothing, you're doing good, be content. Not just that, Hebrews 13:5 says whatever you have, whatever you possess, just be content with that. You don't need anything more. Because you see, if we strive after things, we're not going to have any time left to seek after the Lord. And things don't matter anyway. So the first command is be content. Do not covet the things from this world. Well, to exemplify, to kind of make the point, Jesus goes on in verses 16 through 21 to give a parable to emphasize what he was saying. He said there was a certain rich man who had an enormous fruitful crop come in, more than he had any ability to be able to store. Quite the dilemma. More than he had room to be able to house. And he said to himself, how am I going to handle this? Here we go. I'll tear down my barns, build bigger barns so that I can hold everything, and then I'm going to say to my soul, soul, take it easy. Life is now going to be good. Eat, drink, and be merry, man. Life is going to have no more problems because you're so wealthy, you're so rich, you have so much stuff. Do you know what the Lord said to that man? You fool. For you've invested all that you have, focused completely upon the physical, the temporal. You've gone after the things of this world. And tonight, your life is going to be required of you. Then, what is it going to do for you? How is it going to help you? What benefit will it be, all this wealth that you've amassed, when you stand before God Almighty in heaven? You've made a poor choice. But I got to say, it's a choice most people make. I grew up in the Northeast, and they used to have a saying up there. There was a lotto thing, $1 in a dream. You know, if you only put in $1, which people put in hundreds of them, but if you only put in $1, who knows, you might get rich, and it'll solve all of your problems. I found that humorous because even just this morning, I happened to be watching the news. And there was a woman who is suing the lotto. That's interesting. Because she lost? No, because she won. She's suing the lotto because she won. She said, I won $1 million and my life went to the pits. It was terrible afterwards. She goes, I am the most empty person. I have lots of stuff, but I have nothing else now. She went on to say, I thought the lotto would make my life 10 times better. It made my life 10 times worse. Because it's not about money. It's not about possessions. It's not about wealth. This is what Jesus is saying. Listen, if you're seeking after those things, you are a fool. Instead, be rich towards God. He said, take the time to invest your efforts, your money, your wealth, your riches, your resources in the Lord Almighty, because that is the treasure that will never, ever go away. So 2 commands he gives to the multitudes. Don't covet, and be rich towards the Lord. Well, having done that, Jesus then turns his attention. Beginning in verse 22, he turns towards his disciples. He leaves the multitudes behind. And he begins to give them 4 commands, 4 things that they need to do in light of this idea of balancing the needs of the world with the focus on Christ. Let's pick up verse 22. We'll read down to verse 40. Then Jesus said to his disciples, therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, nor the body, what you will put on. Life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens, they neither sow nor reap, which have neither storehouses nor barn, and yet God feeds them. How much more valuable are you than the birds? And which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? I say to you then, if you're not able to do the least, why are you anxious for the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I say to you that even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed as one of these. If God so clothes the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? Do not seek what you will eat or what you should drink, nor be of an anxious mind. For all these things the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knows you have need of them. But seek the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. Do not fear, my little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give your kingdom. Sell what you have, give alms, provide yourself money bags which do not grow old, a treasure in the heavens does not fail, where thief does not approach and moth does not destroy. For where your treasure is, there will be your heart also. Let your waist be girded and your lamps burning, and you yourselves be like men who wait for their master when he will return from the wedding, and when he comes and knocks, they will open to him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, finds watching. Assuredly, I say to you, he will gird himself, and he will sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. And if he should come in the second watch or in the third watch, or find them waiting, blessed are those servants. But know this, If the master of the house had known the hour that the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed the house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man comes in an hour when you least expect. So Jesus turns to the disciples at this point in time, and he gives them 4 commands. The first one that he gives to them is, do not worry. It's worth mentioning that this is not something he gives to the world, to the multitudes. He doesn't have any assurances for the world. Those who do not follow him, those who are not his children, he doesn't give any guarantees. It's for his kids that he promises, you have no concerns. You don't need to worry about the needs that come in this life. I've got a cute little girl. You've probably seen her running around here. She's adorable. I'm biased, but she's the cutest of all. But if she needed anything, and it makes no difference what it is, I would find a way to get it for her. Be it a cute little outfit or a college education, we're going to find a way. We're going to make sure she's provided for her because she's my daughter and I adore her. Now, if a stranger came up to me and said, hey, want to provide for my college, want to take care of me, would you care putting a roof over my head or feeding me as well? I'd look at him and go, you are who? You see, we don't feel the same obligation to a stranger as we do to our children. Turns out it is the same with the Lord. He gives no guarantees to the world. He does not promise to take care of all that they have necessity of. It is to his children that he turns and says, you, my children, do not need to worry about food, about clothing. Now, admittedly, those were great concerns in the days of Jesus Christ. Food was hard to come by and clothing was expensive. We don't struggle with that as much anymore. We have hundreds of restaurants and you all look very well clothed. But we do worry about other things, do we not? We've traded out food and clothing for mortgages and bills. And we do tend to stress and worry about these things. We stay up late at night and we panic and we fret and go, Lord, I don't know how you're going to take care of this. I've got these bills coming and certainly I don't know how you're going to be able to make ends meet. We fret, we worry, and to the answer to that, God turns to us and says, you do not need to. You don't need to worry. Why? Because we were not created for these things. We weren't created to pay mortgages. We weren't created to eat food or wear clothing. We were created to know and have a relationship with our God in heaven. And as we have that relationship, we're going to see momentarily, as we put him first, he takes care of the rest. The other things are no problem for him. Hey, our God is rich. Dad's wealthy. He has no problem meeting whatever need we have. Therefore, we have no reason to fret. And he actually gives 3 examples to make that point. The first one he gives us is the ravens of the field. There in verse 24. He said, look at the ravens. Pay attention. Notice them. And I'm sure at this point in time, there are probably ravens flying around, a common bird over in Israel. As they're flapping around, he goes, do you think they have storehouses? Do you think they have barns? They have no place to store up their food, yet your heavenly Father always makes sure that there is enough for them to eat. Their children never starve. Now, we don't fully appreciate exactly what this would have meant to a Jew. We look at a raven, and it's not a real pretty bird, if we're honest. But it was far worse than that for a Jew. Because according to Leviticus chapter 11, verses 13 through 15, this was an unclean animal. They did not like ravens. They despised ravens. It was a dirty bird for the Jews. It was something they never, and this is the point, even gave a second thought about. They didn't lay awake at night and wonder, are the ravens going to have enough to eat? Let me give you a modern example. How many of you like rats? Hopefully not. Dirty, nasty animal. I mean, they're just ugly all the way around. How many of you lay awake at night and go, oh, I hope the little rats had enough to eat tonight? Man, I'm just really hopeful they didn't starve. I mean, maybe I should put some food out. No poison, please. No food out. Make sure they're well fed and taken. No, we don't care about rats. And the Jews didn't care about ravens, and that was the point. If a despised animal that you care nothing about, God still takes care of, how much more is he going to take care of his children? Why do we worry? Why do we fret? That's why David would go on to say in Psalm 37:25, I've never seen the righteous go hungry or have to beg for bread. Listen, God promises to take care of us. Look at the ravens. He takes care of them. He'll provide for us. But he gives a second example in verses 27 through 28. He said, you cannot add 1 cubit to your stature. Now that's kind of an odd phrase, admittedly. Cubit is a measurement. Stature speaks of time. The statement is you cannot add 1 moment to your life. Your age, how long you're going to be around, how long you're going to live is exactly what God has designed it to be. You're not going to be around one moment longer, and you can't add a day to that. We're going to grow old. We might lose our teeth. And we're going to see Jesus, and it's going to happen exactly when God says it is. You can't say, well, I want another day. I want 2 more days. It doesn't work that way. And Jesus' point is, if you can't do something as simple as add a single day to your life, if you can't make yourself stay around 1 day longer, if you can't do the least of things, why do you worry about the rest? Use an example. If you can't pick up a 100-pound weight, why would you try to pick up a 1,000-pound weight? If you can't do the simplest, why do you try to do more? Why do we worry about things we have no control over? That's Jesus' point. Why are you fretting? Why do we worry? Why do we panic? Why not rather just trust the Lord? Because He's going to take care of it. But He gives a third example. Not just the ravens, not just the can't add a day to your life, but in verses 27 through 28, He talks about the lilies of the field. Now, lilies, beautiful flowers, they grow in abundance in Israel. Again, no doubt as Jesus is sharing this, there's flowers on the fields, and He points them out and says, look at them. They're gorgeous, and they are. Lilies, they're beautiful. And He draws the comparison. He said, Solomon, who was the richest man to ever live, Solomon in all of his splendor and all of his glory was not even as beautiful as these lilies are that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow. Now, the funny thing about the beauty of the lilies, they don't work hard at it. It's no effort. God just gives it to them. It's a freebie, you might say. You never see a lily wake up at 6 a.m., stand in front of a mirror, and start primping petals. There's no ironing, there's no permitting, there's no makeup, nothing. They just come out, boom, gorgeous, most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Yet they're just there for a moment. They're a decoration of the grass of the field, and then they're thrown into the fire. They don't even last. And God's point is, listen, if I give such beauty, if I take such care for something that is so momentary, how much more am I going to take care of you? And if we're honest, there's truth in that. If I were to ask you the question right now, this morning, at this moment, has God provided all of your needs? The answer is going to be yes. If I asked, have you eaten this morning? Everybody's going to say yes. And if you say no, there's donuts outside. If I say, are you clothed this morning? Praise the Lord, all of you say yes to that. You've got a roof over your head. God has provided everything you need at this moment. There's the key. Where we get in trouble is we look beyond the moment. We look to tomorrow and we go, yeah, but you don't know what's coming. I've got bills that are in the mail. I've got bills sitting on my desk that are due, a week from now, a day from now, and I have no idea how they're going to be paid. I have no idea how God's going to provide. Stop for a second. God does not promise to provide for tomorrow. He promises to provide today. And when today becomes tomorrow, guess what God's going to do? Provide again. It is a guarantee. It is an assurance that He's given to us. We have no reason to fear, no reason to doubt. He's given us the ravens. He's given us the fact we can't add to our lives. He's given us the lilies of the field to give us an example of how great His care is for us. In fact, it goes on in verses 29 through 30 and says, ye of little faith, why are you doubting? He draws the contrast. He says, yes, the nations of the world, they do fear. And by the way, they ought to. Because again, God gives them no guarantees. He gives them no assurances. He says, but to you, you believers, you saints, you children of the Lord, you don't have to. Your heavenly Father knows what you have need of, and He will provide. As, here's the second command, as, verse 31, you seek Him first. There's the key. Yes, God promises. He gives us that assurance of His provision. Assurance He'll take care of all of our needs, but it is as we seek Him first. And let me define this, because seeking Jesus first is kind of an ominous term. Seek the Lord first. Great. How does that work? Let me quickly give you 4 things, 4 examples of how you seek the Lord, how we are to go after Jesus first above all else. The first one is Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. I love Paul as he simplifies how we follow Jesus by not holding on to our past. He says, listen, there's one thing I do, and I like one things, by the way, because you give me 2, I'll forget one of them. One thing I do, I forget what is behind me, and I press on towards Christ. We have a hard time with that. Believer, we tend to hold on to our past, our poor decisions. We tend to hold on to the mistakes and the hurts that we have. And we end up looking back and missing out on Jesus Christ. And it doesn't make a difference. That's the beauty of the cross. That's the beauty of the forgiveness that comes through the gospel message. It doesn't make a difference what we've done, whether 15 years ago or 15 minutes ago. It's irrelevant. It is behind us. It is forgiven. It is forgotten. It is taking care of us. And we have the ability to look forward, to put our eyes on Jesus Christ. We seek the Lord first by forgetting our past, but also Luke chapter 10, verse 38, by remembering to sit at the foot of Christ. You guys know the story. Mary, Martha, they're hosting Jesus. He's coming over. Martha's busy. She's sweeping, she's cleaning, she's cooking. Lots to be done. Whoa, life is busy. Mary's just sitting at the feet of Jesus. Frustrates Martha, gets her angry. She goes, Lord, tell my sister to help. What does Jesus say? Martha, Martha, you are worried about many things. One thing is needed and necessary. And Mary has chosen that part, and it will not be taken from her. Guys, life is busy. Life is crazy. There's a lot going on. I understand that. I get that. But we must remember there has to be that importance of learning to sit at the feet of Christ, to be able to set aside all that craziness for a moment and realize it's not as important as we thought it was. And just be able to sit at the feet of Jesus because, third thing, John chapter 15, verse 4, it is only as we abide in Christ that we bear fruit. It is only as we abide in Christ that we can do all things. Maybe you're here this morning and you're going, everything I'm trying in life isn't working. You're doing your best. You're trying your hardest. It's not from a lack of effort. You're putting your best foot forward, and you're doing everything you possibly can do, but it seems like life is against you. It seems like everything's just doomed for failure, and you're going, I don't understand why it has to be so hard. Stop and ask yourself, am I putting Christ first? Because apart from Him, we can do nothing. Listen, until we put Jesus first, life is going to be fruitless. It's going to be full of frustrations. It's only as we learn to sit at the feet of Christ, it is only as we learn to put Jesus first that we're going to find that we're successful, fruitful in whatever it is that we do. But there's a fourth thing that we're given, not just the letting go of the past, not just making sure we sit at the feet of Jesus, abide in Him. Notice there in verse 32 of Luke chapter 12, we're also not to fear. Don't miss this. I love this. Because if the Bible says, if Jesus says, do not be afraid, guess what we are? Terrified. It is scary to trust the Lord. It is scary to say that I can put Jesus first and believe that everything else is going to work itself out. It is scary to have that confidence that the Lord needs to be first in my life. But Jesus says, listen, don't be afraid, my little flock, my sheep. Because it's your Father's good pleasure not just to give you what you need. He wants to give you His kingdom. Think about that. Stop for a moment and contemplate that. God just doesn't want to pay your bills. God just doesn't want to make sure you have food and clothing and a house over your head. He'll take care of all that. Again, He's God Almighty. He has no problem providing for those needs. He wants to do far greater than that, though. Our Father wants to give us everything. In fact, in Revelation chapter 3, verse 21, we are told that to those who overcome, we will sit upon the throne with Christ. Romans chapter 8, we are co-heirs with Jesus of all that God has given to Him. That's what God has prepared and waiting for us. As we seek Him first, do not worry, just seek the Lord. But there's a fourth command that's given. We'll get to the fourth momentarily. In verses 33 and 34, not only to not worry, not only to seek the Lord first, but to be careful where we put our treasures. Jesus says, sell all that you have, give it to the poor, and lay up for yourself treasures in heaven where moth and rust cannot get to it and thief cannot steal. Not that we need to sell everything, by the way, that's not the idea. But He's saying, listen, be careful where you put your time, be careful where you put your talents and your treasure. Because He goes on to say in verse 34, where your treasures are, there your heart will be also. We get the impression, we have the idea, mistakenly, that we invest in the things that we have a heart for. If you like a particular person, you get the idea that you want to bless them, you want to invest in them because you have this heart for them. If you like a particular hobby, then you invest in that hobby because that's what your heart is. That's what your desire is. Your heart, therefore, guides your actions. That's what we assume. Turns out Jesus is saying it's just the opposite. And this is profound, by the way. It is what you invest in, what you put your time and talents and treasure in, that's where our heart goes. That's why, by the way, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9 says, do not trust your heart. It is deceitfully wicked above all things. Because our heart doesn't lead us, it follows us. It follows our choices. So if you're following your heart, be careful because it's following your choices. And if your choices are bad, your heart's going to lead you in the wrong direction. And that's the concern. That's the warning that Jesus gives. Hey, listen, don't worry. Seek the Lord first. Why? Because if you're not putting God first, if we're investing in the things of this world, then don't be surprised when our heart goes towards the world and not for Christ. Maybe you're here and you're going, you know what? I attend church. I come on Sunday mornings. Maybe even come midweek. I punch in, punch out. I come and sing the worship songs. I clap when everybody claps. I sit and stand when everybody sits and stands. I listen to the messages. I get a donut afterwards. But I don't really have a heart for the Lord. Maybe you're feeling like there's that emptiness, like you're running through the motions. Maybe you're even feeling fake. And you go, I don't understand. I know I should be happier. I know I should have more joy of the Lord. I know I should have this excitement about God, but it's just not there. Ask yourself a simple question. Where are we investing our treasures? For where we invest our treasures, that's where our heart will be also. Either in the things of this world, and our heart will go for the world, or in the things of the Lord, and we'll find our heart in the Lord. Jesus says, listen, be careful. Sell what you have. Don't get caught up in all the stuff. It's not worth it. Because you want your heart with the Lord. Because, fourth and finally, we'll finish up with this. Verses 35 through 40. We need to be ready. Don't worry. Seek the Lord first. Put your treasures in Him so your heart is found in Him, so you are ready because, get this, Jesus is coming soon. The Lord brings it back to the fact that there is an imminent return. There is that hope of the fact that Jesus could come any day, any moment for His bride, for His church. And we as believers, we want to be ready and prepared for that. We don't want to miss out on that rapture, that return of Jesus Christ when He comes for His bride. And He gives three examples. Three examples to amplify or to exemplify exactly what it means or how we are to be ready. The first one there in verse 35 is, do not let your lamp go out. Keep your lamp burning. It's a reference back to Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 through 13. You may recall the parable. It's the parable of the 10 virgins. There were 10 women who had lamps and oils for their lamps, and they were waiting for the return of the master for the wedding feast, the wedding celebration. But the master took too long. He was gone for a very, very long time. So long that the ladies all fell asleep. All 10 of them knocked out. They were out cold. And they woke up and the trumpet had sounded and the master was on his way. And 5 of them had been wise enough to bring some extra oil. They poured in the oil, they relit their lamps, and they were ready for the return of the king. The 5 who were unwise asked the 5 wise ones, hey, give us some of your oil. And they said, no, we won't have enough then. So they had to run off to the market to try to get some more. And they bought it. They came back, but while they were gone, the master returned, and the 5 who were ready, they went into the kingdom. The 5 who weren't prepared showed up afterwards, and they knocked on the door. They said, hey, we're here. We got our lamps. Let us in. And the master opened up and said, I never knew you. Because they were unprepared, they were left outside. That's what Jesus is referencing. This is what He's talking about. Keep those lamps burning. Yes, I get it. I understand. If you've been in Calvary Chapel for very long, you have heard about the rapture of the church. Probably multiple times, maybe in 1 week. And you might sit there and go, yeah, we've heard about that. Yeah, people have talked about that for years. I mean, Pastor Chuck, my goodness, it's all he ever talked about. And now he's with the Lord. Certainly there's enough time. There's more time. The Lord's not coming back. He hasn't come back yet, and there's a lot of time left. Don't fool yourself. Don't get so caught up in the world. Don't buy into that lie of saying, hey, Jesus may not come for a long time yet. It's okay to mess around. It's okay to let our heart be caught up in the things of this world. It's okay not to see Jesus first. That's the condemnation. That's the command that Jesus is giving here. Don't allow that to take place. Keep your fire burning. Keep that anticipation of the coming of the Lord at the forefront. Always have that expectancy of the soon return of Jesus Christ. But this is the second example that he gives there in verses 36 through 38. Not just keep your lamps burning, but be a faithful servant. He says, blessed is the servant who, when his master goes and is away for a time, is ready and prepared for his return from the wedding. This is the wedding. Revelation chapter 19, verses 7 through 9, the wedding of the Lamb. He comes back to get his bride. He said, blessed is the servant who's there and ready, regardless of when the master comes, whether it's the second hour and the third hour. Hey, you don't know. But he says, blessed is you. I'll tell you, if that servant is ready, the master will come in, sit down, eat with that servant, and the master, Jesus, will serve us. You think about the rewards of what God is promising, the incredible blessings that God has prepared for us. Guys, I got to tell you, man, no wonder Jesus is encouraging us to make sure we're ready. We don't get caught up in the things of the world. It's not worth it. In John chapter 14, in verses 1 through 3, Jesus told his disciples, I am going to prepare a place for you. He said, if I go to prepare a place, know that I will come back, that where I am, you may also be. Now, God created the world in 7 days. Pretty impressive. Imagine what he's done for 2,000 years and what he has prepared for us, his bride, who he loves. That's what waits for us. And he goes, man, blessed are you if you are that faithful servant who is waiting, anticipating, anxious for the master to return. He says, I'm going to come, I'm going to sit with you, I'll eat with you, I'll serve you. That's what's waiting for us. Why would we want to risk that and get caught up in the things of this world that are so temporary, so futile, so worthless? He says, do not, be cautious, be that faithful servant, because, notice the third and final example he gives in verses 39 through 40. He says, because I'm going to come in an hour and a time when you least expect it. He uses the illustration. If the master of the house had known the hour that the thief was going to break in, the thief wouldn't have been able to come. But the thief comes in an hour when it's least expected. He says, so it will also be with the Son of Man. If I were to tell you guys that at 9 o'clock tonight, a thief was going to break into your house, you'd have the police there and ready. He wouldn't stand a chance. But that's not how thieves work. Thieves, they come when you don't expect it. Then when you least would expect for them to come in, that's when they sneak into your house. That's when Jesus is going to come. And that hour and that time and that season when you least expect it, therefore we must be ready at all times, anticipating the return of our Lord. And that's the encouragement, that's the exhortation that he gives to the disciples. He says, don't worry. You don't need to fret or think about all the stuff in the world, all the needs of the world, because your Father in heaven is going to take care of that. He promises he'll take care of that as you seek him first. Put him before all else in your life. Because when you put the Lord first, that's where you're going to be, where your treasure is, your heart is, because your heart's going to follow your treasure. And then you will be ready, anticipating, excited about the soon return of Jesus Christ. Guys, what an exhortation, what an encouragement, what a blessing. The Lord gives the freedom from worrying about the world and the opportunity to be excited about his soon return. Let's pray. Lord, we just thank you, Father. We just thank you for this morning and the opportunity, Lord, to get into your word and see the incredible promises that you have there for us, Lord, that we, Lord, have no reason to be anxious. We have no reason to doubt. We have no reason to fear. Lord, you have given us the overwhelming encouragement and promise that you will take care of every need we would ever have. Lord, you simply just ask that we seek you first, Lord, that we put you foremost in our lives. And Lord, that as we do so, you will provide for all the rest. Lord, you want to provide far more than what we even need. Father, you want to bless us with your kingdom. Lord, you desire for us to inherit all that you have created. And Lord, we understand and realize that it is only as, Lord, that we seek after you, we invest our treasures, our time, our talents in you. Lord, that we're going to find that we have a heart for you and that we are looking forward to your return. So Lord, let that be our place. Let that be our heart. Let that be our passion. Lord, never getting caught up so much in the world that we forget the great hope that you've put before us. Lord, our salvation, Lord, in one day, our reunification, Lord, as we get to come and be with you face to face. So Lord, let us run with that excitement every day, looking forward to your coming, not just for ourselves personally, Lord, but telling others about you, sharing with others that great hope that you've given to us, the great love you have for us. We praise and thank you. In Jesus' name we all say, amen. You guys can all stand up. If you are here this morning, and maybe you're anxious, you're worried, you're fretting and you're fearful, come on up. The men are here to pray with you. Or maybe you're here and you're feeling like your heart's just far from the Lord. You're feeling like you're so invested in the world that God is a second thought to you. The guys are going to be up here. Point you back to the one thing that is necessary. And that's to sit at the feet of Jesus. To know and be excited, guys, that he's coming for us and he's coming soon. God bless you guys. You have a good week in the Lord. Read ahead. Next week, Acts chapter 2, 37 through 47, we'll talk about the ability to live for God as we look at the gift of the Spirit of God. God bless.